Sachavartanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum. I salute Lord Krishna, son of Vasudeva, destroyer of Kamsa and Chandra, supreme delight of Devaki, the Lord God himself and the Guru of the whole universe. So we resume our study of chapter 10, Vibhuti Yoga. But as usual, first of all,
Sahana.
If you like, okay.
No, you used to do it.
I used to, yeah. Om Sahana Bhavatu, Sahano Punatu, Sahaviryam Karavavahi, Tejasvinavaditam Mastu Ma Vidvishavai. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Hari Om Tat Sat. May that Lord nourish us all, protect us all, give us great vigor in our studies, give us great strength in our work. May we not disagree or cavil with each other. Peace, peace, peace be unto all. So generally it's our habit to deal with questions first. Any questions? When we consider what is the supreme principle of the universe, the sum totality, it's impossible to define this in this way or that way. Sri Ramakrishna gives us this great example of the chameleon. You know, that there were people who came across a creature in a tree. And one of them reported that it was an orange color. And somebody who had seen the same thing said, no, not at all. It's not orange, it's brown or some other color. And they had a vigorous argument about it, but they knew that there was somebody who lived under the tree, and so they went to that person and said, you're familiar with this creature. We say it's red, I say it's orange, somebody says it's brown, he says it's brown, and I say it's orange. Which one is true? And he said, oh, you're both correct, because you see, sometimes it's orange, sometimes it's brown, sometimes it's blue, sometimes it's green, and sometimes it is transparent, completely colorless. In this way, we can't describe this sum totality, and when religions disagree over the definition, they don't understand possibly that everyone is correct, and at the same time, there's room for a great expansiveness of description, because infinite are the forms of this entity. And if we consider the oneness of the whole existence, oneness of the universe, then we'll consider that every form is his form also. And it is by tuning the mind into this and understanding the shape and form that we see is nothing more than a kind of fragmented version of this one supreme entity, immanent in the world, and when we notice it, we can catch a thrill from it by noticing it, noticing the fragmented form of it, as it were, and tracing it back to a limitless origin of infinite dimension. It's a contradiction in terms to say infinite in dimension, but we are lost for words, that's the point. And so how can we describe, and so Arjun quite rightly says that only you know yourself by yourself. Truly you alone know yourself by yourself. And this term Purushottama is given, or source of beings. Not only source, but Lord of beings. You see, there's a source of beings, and we can say that we can find a source such as, there's a source for a tree, namely the roots, and the roots are not visible. By inference, we know that there is a source and there is a root below. But the governing entity is also there, is another aspect of it. So when we say you are Lord, Lord of the universe, we mean there's some rulership, the principle that keeps everything in harmony and rhythm. So Lord of beings and God of gods, deity of deities, anything that shines, anything that we find in a superlative way or give a superlative adjective to, that one exceeds it. And ruler of the world. And so all of these are given, and this was given in the last talk on the Bhagavad Gita last Tuesday. Sri Ramakrishna has this comment to make. An individual took a diamond to the marketplace for valuation and asked several shopkeepers about it. The brinjal seller opined that 5 baskets of brinjals might be bartered for that gem. The rice merchant viewed that 2 bags of rice could be liberally given in exchange for it. And the draper in his turn held that a bale of linen might be unhesitatingly offered for that precious thing. And finally it was given to the diamond merchant who alone could value it at 2 lakhs of rupees. In this fashion, the Lord is also beheld in varying ways according to people's power of understanding. And so God's glories are truly unfathomable. And we give a valuation according to our experience. And inevitably, it's an under-evaluation of the true worth of it. And that's true even if we don't think of it in this way. If we don't notice the glories which are around us, then how can we value it properly? Our outlook has to be something like a revaluation. And that means we don't take anything for granted. We learn the skill and art of doing that. Instead of bypassing it as a mere ordinary thing, we take it for its extraordinariness. I remember last year in London, the hosts who were hosting me for the Kali Puja, they said to me, "Oh, but we're not extraordinary like you." I said, "Everyone's extraordinary. You're extraordinary. Of course you're extraordinary. Because within you is an eternal dimension that we call Atman. Everybody's extraordinary, not just in the source, not just in the fact of their eternal divinity, but they're extraordinary in the sense of their unique manifestations and talents and abilities. Is it not extraordinary that mankind walks with such a complex brain, a neurological system that outdoes any computer? Computer science can say that they will replace the brain at some stage, but the multiple task capacity of the brain, the quickness of it, all the storage of memory which is contained there through this neurological system is not matched so far by any computer. A computer may well be able to make quicker calculations, but the overall function of the brain cannot be replaced. How did this evolve, and how do we take it for granted? We walk around with this thing in our heads and don't even think about it. Even the simplest things we're not aware of. We're not aware of how we breathe. We're not aware of how the limbs move when they walk, ordinarily. Of course, we can bring our conscious attention to it and be mindful of it and bring up a feeling of thankfulness about it also. When they say that the computer age adversely affects your eyesight because people spend hours and hours gazing at a screen and don't bring water to the eyes because they don't blink. Unblinkingly, they watch the screen. And so we require this moisture in the eyes. The eyes require this lubrication. God as nature has designed it in this way. And so there are things that we take for granted, this whole design, and the fact that the human body is a magnificent machine, where one drop, one teardrop, is still valid as a germ killer. containing Lysol, when diluted in a bucket, 20-liter bucket of water, that we have all the mechanisms within us to combat any foreign bodies that enter into the human body. And the fact that left to itself, left in its pristine and pre-designed condition, there's no reason why the body should not function as well as any animal in the wild. It's only, humans and domestic animals that seem to get various kinds of diseases because the animal, of course, doesn't chew the cud of resentment. It has adrenaline to deal with an emergency situation and carries on with its life. But the human chews the cud of resentment. And that has an adverse effect on the whole personality and the body itself. As you think, so you become. Not only so you become, but instantaneously you become it. If you think that there is a delicious meal waiting for you, and all of a sudden gastric juice flows in the stomach, and saliva flows in the mouth, it's not accidental. It is the thought that governs these physical reactions, and it happens very quickly. So we don't have to wait for long. But all of these functions, these marvelous bodily functions, we take for granted, calling it perhaps instinct, a behavior that is rehearsed so well, we don't even think about it. It's just automatic. It is inserted into a kind of conditioning mode. If you suddenly change houses and you're coming home from work in a car, it wouldn't be any surprise if you automatically drive your car to your old house. It must have happened to you. So, habits die hard. We take a lot for granted. We take the whole operation and machinery of the human body, its miracle, its capacity to heal, its capacity to pump the heart, we take it for granted. We don't even think about it. Not a thought is given to it. We expect it. We expect the sun to shine tomorrow. We expect the moon to go through its phases. We expect the seasons to arrive on time. Even though we may adversely affect the seasons, we have these expectations and we don't think about it at all. Is there any merit now then in bringing these miraculous things, these wonderful manifestations of nature into our awareness? Is there any merit for us? Is there some transformation that takes place in us? And so this whole chapter is dedicated to this subject. How can we view life and work within its confines? In a useful way, we have to revalue things. And revaluation, this whole of the Bhagavad Gita is keen on revaluing the ownership. This is not my body, this is the Lord's body. This is the Lord's earth car. This is not my mind, this is His sitting room. This is not the sun, it's the Lord's lamp that gives me life. This is not the moon, it gives me coolness and shade, gives me mental vigor. This, without the moon, of course, the whole climate will change because we are completely dependent on the motion of the moon. We're completely dependent on the tides that go in and go out. And so many other things. The relationship between the earth and the moon is a wonderful brotherly, sisterly relationship, if you want to call it that. And there are very few other planets that have this synergistic relationship that assists life. We're able to gaze at the moon. I was looking at the moon last night and how it's in its waxing mood and how beautiful it was. And shortly, of course, it will come into its fullness. And we have the ability to observe it on a clear night, admire it. Many a romantic tale was told by observing and dwelling on the beautiful shining moon. And yet, many people take it for granted. We just came off retreat now, and it struck me how many people miss the opportunity of observing and glorying in a rising sun. How beautiful that is, what a beautiful sight it is. And even now today, there are selected people who have this wonderful privilege of seeing the earth from some kilometers out from it in space, and seeing the beautiful curvature of this earth, blue in color, with a small haze around its edge. And automatically, even if you see it on a film, it fills us with awe. Can we consider what happened before this earth was there rotating? Before it was there, God stood there and, as it were, wove a cocoon around himself, which we call the earth. And so all of these observations are clues also to bringing subject matter in for meditation purposes. And we'll see this as we go on. So we come to this. Vaktam ahyas asheshana divya hi atma vibhutayaha yabir vibhuti bhe lokan imam stam vyapya tishtasi. Please, says Arjuna, condescend to tell me. In other words, please do me the honor. Please, I know that you're the Supreme, but out of compassion, come down to my level. And as your devotee, let me glorify in pure love by telling me without reserve of all your divine glories. You've told me some before, but tell me again, by which glories you remain, pervading all these worlds. Everything I see, you pervade, not just visibly. And when we say worlds, of course we sometimes use the term world for the earth. Now this becomes our world. Our world can be our domestic environment too. Our world can be our personal situation. Our world can be our physical situation. Our world can be our country. And then our world can be the earth, and our world can be this whole solar system. And our world can be that region where the imagination can reach out to the farthest possibilities of the visible universe. And if you practice astronomy or have a look through a telescope, then you'll be filled with wonder and awe at the vastness of what you see all around evenly, in all directions. So this also is the world. And we can see how you pervade it. After all, Krishna is an incarnation, or considered to be that, of Vishnu, Vasudeva, the one that is pervading everywhere, eternally, with no limit. So, a musician alone can bring out the fine touches in a melody. The strength of an elephant could be demonstrated only by that stately animal turning out gigantic work. The wealth of a monarch can be, well recounted by no one but himself. So it's only given to this particular form, this supreme teacher, who is this pervading entity in essence, to reveal all of his divine splendors and glories. Sri Ramakrishna says this: the revelation of God comes purely by his mercy. He is the sun of knowledge. It is possible for a single ray of his to enlighten the whole world. Don't think that your effort alone will do it. Your movement will stimulate a corresponding divine movement that makes your crooked paths straight for you. The maximum activity, if you want to put it that way, the maximum clearing of the way is done by the divine. Our part is relatively small. So we are therefore able to understand one another and to acquire knowledge in all of its forms. More than all these, we get to know Him only by His grace only. It is through His grace that thinking and thought, a thought current is supplied, arrives at our substation for distribution. It is only by His grace that all these manifestations can be revalued and appreciated. It is only with divine eyes that we can see the divinity. Katam vidyam aham yogims tam sada parichintam keshu keshu cha bhaveshu chintyo si bhavan maya. How many? I know. You, O yogin, by constant meditation. Now in what various aspects are you, O Lord, to be thought of by me? That is, how shall we take an extrovert mind? How can we make it cognize the divine presence in all these objective things? There's an analogy, the sight of toys that a child sees stirs up the child, or stirs up the thought of that child in the mother. So may I, in that manner, have the means to revel in you through the things of this world, is what Arjuna is saying. I want to know all these things and therefore constantly allow my mind to dwell on you in these forms, in these varieties. People ask, how long should I meditate? According to this, well, it's a constant process. Should I not be thinking of God all the time? Should I not be tuning my attention in to that divine all the time? And what is the reward I'll get? Well, I won't do it for reward because this is a chapter on Bhakti Yoga. That means non-demanding love of God. Therefore, I don't expect anything in return. Only my joy in tuning my heart and mind and soul into the Beloved. And so Sri Ramakrishna has this to say. As the toy fruits and toy elephant remind one of the true fruits and elephant, the symbols and images remind the devotee of the eternal and formless God. As soon as I see these, it reminds me of something. Now Sri Ramakrishna, of course, we can find a wonderful example that comes straight to mind. We can find two examples that come to my mind. One is the vision, or the physical vision, that is, of a prostitute standing, and immediately Sri Ramakrishna sees the Divine Mother and says, oh, you're here also. Even the most depraved in society, he sees it. Once on the Maiden in Kolkata, he sees an English boy with his leg crooked in a certain way, bent in a certain way, and it immediately reminds him, oh Lord, there you are, Lord Krishna, with your wonderful bansura, your wonderful flute playing. I see it clearly. It starts off with a trigger. Some trigger that reminds you, because your bent of mind is immediately to go toward that. And here is Arjun asking, please tell me more about this divine, all these divine glories. Today we say the opposite. Today it is in many societies taboo to talk about the subject of religion, God, or any of these matters. People don't want to do it. They say two subjects should be avoided, politics and religion. Well, politics we can understand. And religion also we can understand to avoid if it's on the surface level, where we disagree about many details, about dogmas and doctrines and details which are, in the grand scheme of things, methodological differences. So, for example, we have this wonderful festival that is coming up on Sunday that I hope you'll all participate in. Is an exhibition of a statement, really, a very, very graphic statement, a dramatic statement even, that says, we are different, let's celebrate the differences, but underneath we are all the same. apart from the details, apart from the methodologies, apart from the constitutional differences that have to be there, we don't expect everybody to be the same as us, with the same upbringing, the same psyche, the same physique, the same choice in clothes, the same tastes in food. All of these will be separate and different. Should we try to make everybody conform to the exact tastes, the exact choices in food and clothing, or preferences, or opinions? And so, it is in the spirit that we are able to celebrate in what is now very, very much needed, and something that all the religions of the world agree, that there should at least be an effort to understand each other on that basis. Previously, we have found that people have found more disagreements than agreements. And every religion espousing this high value of love, our highest value of ahimsa, non-injury in thought, word and deed, and yet, in the name of God and religion, says Vivekananda, more blood has been spilt than any other cause in the world, we might add, prior to the last world wars. Why should that be? The very model of love and compassion, of brotherliness, of oneness, and yet these models lose their credibility by behaving as if they were atheists. That means if they really believed in God, if they really believed in the oneness underlying the whole of existence, if they really believed that God was love and that we should manifest this love even just by example, then none of this would take place. Swami Vivekananda made this very, very pointed remark. He was not known for his subtlety in many areas. Fortunately for us, boldly he stated, it is much better to be an atheist than a hypocrite. And so, underneath it, underneath all these religious differences and so on, we should try to find the sameness. And why should we not speak about the most profound, the most important aspect of humanity, namely man's spiritual dimension, the deep undercurrent that lies behind everything, and also the destiny and purpose to which we are evolving. If that is the purpose, to get our own freedom, to discover it, or to find some kind of relational unity with God, if that is the purpose, then why are we playing Trivial Pursuit? Why is our attention being diversified in so many different unimportant ways? And so, he says, Arjuna, Vistarena tvano yogam vibhutim cha janardana puya kataya triptihi shanvatu nasti mermritam. Tell me again, please, in detail, O Janardana, of your yoga powers and attributes, for I am not satisfied with hearing your life-infusing words. I can hear you, you can go on and on and on for eternity. I will not be satisfied even. So much like nectar is it to me. What is the nectar that we enjoy in this world? Scandal-mongering, entertaining the mind. There's a certain kind of mindset with some people where their pleasure is in complaining. Somebody once told me that in a certain country where the weather is particularly miserable, you can't get anywhere or strike up any conversation without mentioning how bad the weather is or how difficult the traffic is. People find a delight in this pessimism, kind of complaining attitude. I won't tell you which region it is. It may well be a small overcrowded island that is noted for its notoriously bad weather, and a country that may claim greatness. They're a recluse. So, how do we get out of this kind of complaining mindset and get away from the satisfaction with small samples of joy here and there, as opposed to something deep, something that is constant, something that is blissful, rewarding, something that is like nectar? The beautiful, beautiful description of a devotee enjoying, as it were, this loving relationship with the most beloved is as a kind of nectar, sipping the nectar, sipping the joy, sipping the sweetness. All these are varying terms for the same thing. And so he says, the words are life-infusing. And Sri Ramakrishna makes this comment. The relationship between Ishvara, that is our personal God, and Jivatman, the assumed soul, is like that between magnet and iron. We can imagine the soul to be something like an entity that wants to tap into the honey of the divine. And we can do it in three ways, and one way leads to the other, and one way is a deeper version of the other. And we can begin by assuming that we are separate, and that we would like to be filled with the sweetness. And then another way is to tap into that sweetness and still to keep that distance between the source of it. And the other one is to dive fully into it and become it as it were. Now the Lord responds. And these various vibhutis are defined. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Hantate Katayishyami Divyahi Atma Vibhutaya Pradhanyataha Kuru Sresta Nastyanto Vistarasyami. So to thee, I agree. Very well, says the Lord. I agree to your request. I shall now tell you my divine glories, according to their prominence, because there are so many, that I'll just tell you some of the most important ones. I'll just give you some clues, so that wherever you look, you may see the others. O best of the Gurus, there's no end to the details of my manifestations. That means, wherever we look, when we sit down and gain some impression of something, we can catch on to it and see this is a manifestation, and we can lead it to it's the source of its manifestation, its manifesto, and we can see that it itself is this aspect or attribute of the divine. And the splendors in nature are all truly the attributes of this divine. So it's impossible for the Lord himself to recount them all, but a few specimens we can catch. His infinitude can be referred from them. So Sri Ramakrishna says this: to define God from scriptural knowledge is like defining the holy city of Benares after getting an idea of it from the map. Somebody can tell you, and I know somebody like this. There's somebody I know of tremendous intellectual bent. They will tell you in great detail every part of geography. They will say, they will tell you all about New York. They'll tell you all about Cape Town in South Africa. They'll tell you all about Singapore. They'll tell you all these places. They've never been to any one of them. But thank God for YouTube. So they are able to research it even before YouTube happened.
Google Earth, I'd suggest.
Google Earth and all these other things. But as soon as you see a picture or a film, you say, well, I don't have to go there. I've already seen it. No, you haven't. You haven't sat in New York City and heard taxi drivers shout at each other. You haven't heard the taxis. You haven't heard the You haven't heard the traffic and the pedestrians and the accents in which people speak. You haven't walked under the shadow of the skyscrapers. You haven't reflected on how the people feel about their own city. All of these sentiments. You've just taken a theoretical overview and you have no real knowledge of it. You only have a small superficial understanding of it, an intellectual grasp. Direct experience is the only way. A lot of people can talk about God. We heard people endlessly talk about God. We heard people endlessly speculate about the highest principle. We've heard all kinds of things that are entrenched in dogmas and doctrines. And yet, how many people have seen God? How many people have directly experienced that for themselves and can now speak with great authority? And of course, Sri Ramakrishna was one such. From every approach, from every kind of varied experience of the divine, he could truly say, I have been there, I know it. And so when we today espouse this great principle about the harmony of religions, and when we say all religions are true, it is not that Ramakrishna studied it anywhere or learnt it from anybody's mouth or from a book. It's that he himself journeyed along the route, the pathway, and found at the end of it, there was the truth. And it happened to be the same truth wherever he looked. And that is why we can't deny it. We can't say, oh, it's just a philosophical opinion, or it is a nice trendy thing, it is a liberal thing to say. None of this. So that is why we are convinced about this truth about the harmony of religions. So the truth about the universe has to be known at the outset. So what is that truth? Aham Atma Gudakeshu Sarva Bhuta Sayastitaha Aham Adischa Madhyam Cha Bhutanam Anta Eva Cha. I am the self of Gudakesha. Gudakesha, the one who has conquered sleep. I am the self. Why does he call him Gudakesha, the one who has conquered sleep? Are we not all asleep? Do we not all require awakening? I don't mean here, of course, during the talk. No doubt you're all asleep here. But I mean that in life, we're not awake to the reality. See, Utishtata Jagrata Prapyavarandi Bodhata, Vivekananda's loose interpretation. Arise, awake, don't stop until that goal is reached. Look at Upanishad. So we all have to wake up, arise, awake. We've just been on retreat, and some people were not used to waking up so early. And so I became the destroyer of their sleep and the interrupter of their dreams, waking them up in the early morning with the bell. Arise, awake. If you sleep, when will you meditate? Come on, get up. Don't waste your time. Wake up to the reality. Shed off this delusion. See? Lead us from the unreal to the real, says the prayer. From darkness to light, death to immortality. Asato ma sutgamaya, tamaso ma jyoti gamaya, varjo amritam gamaya. So take us from the darkness of our ignorance to the light of our knowledge. So all of us are going round in a kind of dream state, taking the world that's this dream world. Why should we say it's a dream world? Because we know from philosophy and from analysis that the components in a dream are exactly the components in a waking state. And we only revalue it as a dream, a mere dream, from the point of view of a waking state. But in the dream state, all the difficulties in the waking state have gone. The man's toothache in the waking state has gone in the dream. and the man's attack from a tiger is gone on awaking. And the components are there exactly the same, with some slight differences. That is, in a dream, many egos are there, whereas we assume only one specialist, stylized ego in a waking state. And then all of that disappears completely into deep sleep. We're walking around with eyes half closed, not seeing the glory of these manifestations, not being alert to it, not consciously taking the probe of our attention and in a chosen way directing it to the glory of the divine or the self. But he says, I am the self, the supreme self, not the psychophysical self. I am the self. The other is a self. I am the self. That self that is equally present in all. And he says, and he said it before, where is it? I'm seated in the hearts. In your heart? Yes. But is that all? No. I am seated there, sarva, sarva bhuta sayashtiyata, in all beings. Equally, we may add. Then he says this remarkable statement. We are all subject to time. We all have this understanding of a timeline, a sequence of events that starts at a point and goes on to an end, and something in between happens. But it was Einstein who said, time is an illusion, although he adds, but a very real-looking one. What is time? In God's area, of course, there's no time. In our area, there's a time because there's motion. Where there's no motion, there's no time or sense of time. And sometimes, in some ideas in physics, if you have space, then there's no time. For example, what's called loop quantum theory, we find that the key to it is that if you have space, then time is gone. And there's another variation of it the other way around. If you think time is real, space is gone. But you cannot have the two together in that particular theory. So how are we born? We're born in the middle of a movie. We never came in the beginning, and we won't stay to the end, and we have to try to make some sense of it. And here the Lord is saying, this time am I. Of course, in later chapters we see that I come as time, he says. Repeatedly he says it. Every second I come as. But in the whole process of everything, we may say, in the evolution of everything, evolution meaning the change within time, he says, I am the beginning of it, I am the middle of it, and I'm also the end of all beings. This Lord is the innermost self in all beings, and these are all his gross manifestations, and the effect is nothing but the cause in another form. The Lord is the material as well as the efficient cause of the universe. So the one who is awakened in the self can easily recognize the fact that Ishvara is putting on the appearance of the visible universe, and that is very important. We get ourselves into trouble if we think that the Lord is just the creator of the universe. And you see, the history of that is very interesting. For thousands of years, it was noted that God is an external, extra-cosmic creator. Ex nihilo is the expression. And modern science took that same ex nihilo and say, the universe was made from, out of nothing, from nothing. Well, even the great philosopher, you can say more as atheistic philosopher, Epicurus, said that you cannot get nothing from something or something from nothing. From nothing you get nothing. And because we have a something, there's a something there. So what is that something? And so if you take the material and efficient cause together, then you don't have the problem of the question, where is the second-hand shop that the Lord went to get the materials for the universe, and who made that, and then who made that, who made that, who made that infinite regress. And you can't simply dismiss it by saying self-caused. Still, as soon as you introduce the idea caused, no, Lord is not caused. It is the material and efficient cause. That is, it is the material of the universe itself. To use an example, Brihadaranyaka Upanishad gives us such an example. Like a spider weaving a web from itself. No Mrs. Spider is required. And so Sri Ramakrishna puts this. It is my cosmic mother who has become everything, Cosmic mother, that is, this material manifestation is put in a feminine form, since that is the mother of all other things. She of omnipotence has become the universe and the beings in it. She reveals herself as the body, the intellect. Not in, but as the body and the intellect. The virtuous path and the spiritual pursuit. Shakti, that is this feminine, energetic aspect, and Brahman, that is the transcendent, unmoving principle, are one and the same. In the manifest state, she is Shakti, and the absolute state, Brahman. We were discussing earlier the difference between Advaita, Dvaita, Vishishtadvaita, and so on, and how the great Tutupuri, the teacher of Advaita to Sri Ramakrishna, misunderstood this himself, and only had this idea of the eternal, the absolute, the Nitya, and soon realized that the other side of the coin was Leela. And Sri Ramakrishna was very clear. It's a double-sided coin. There's Nitya, the eternal, on the one side, and Leela, the play of the Lord, on the other side. In the manifest state, she is Shakti. In the absolute state, Brahman. Now we go on to more of a comprehensive description, and we have to use some particulars from the Vedas and try and understand what that means in the context. Adityanam aham Vishnu, Jyoti sham ravi am shumam, Marichye marutam asmi, nakshatranam aham shasi. Among Adityanam, among the Dityas. So you realize, and the best source of this is to come to a question given to Yajnavalkya in the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. How many are the illumined factors, the devas? How many are the gods? And it comes from an enormous number down to essentially 33 categories or components. The rest are just manifestations of it. What are these components? 33. Well, 12 of these are Adityas. 11 are described as Rudras, and the Vasus are another 8 in number. 8 Vasus. Yeah. So 8 Vasus. Now we come Adityas. What is that? Typical of the Adityas, shining ones. We can condense this into the zodiac form of time. That means there are 12 zodiac periods that we can usually see. And then we find 12 months in our human year, in our solar year. And so what is this? We can condense even that into, this is time. This is time as measured and observed and seen and calculated by us. After all, the whole universe is comprised of space, time, function, and causation also, linked with time and motion. So the Adityas of all of these, I am Vishnu, the one that pervades everywhere, and the one that, mythologically, is of 3 strides, that is covering the entire diversity of existence as we understand it. Of the luminaries, that is the shining ones, I am the sun. From our point of view, the sun. From a cosmic point of view, anything that shines with great strength. So I am that. Can we understand and visualize anything greater than the sun? And all the qualities we give God, don't we give the sun? It shines everywhere, it radiates, it knows every corner, it's beautiful. It is a life giver above all for us. We all run on solar energy. I am the Marichi of the Maruts, of the asterisms, the moon am I, he says, of all the other cosmic bodies I am I. And so the commentary goes like this. Though all flowers, fruits and crops come from the same land, the best among them are selected for exhibition. The whole of the manifested universe is the glory of Ishvara, but the prominent among them, those that arrest the attention of the beholder, are selectively mentioned as the vibhutis, or the attributes of Ishvara. By the way, we should mention that this 11, 8 and 12 combination leaves us short. So the other entities would be Prajapati and Indra. These are some of the other entities that would be there. The same Aditya assumes 12 names during the 12 months. These names commencing from April and it goes on. So Amsudhata, Indra, Arima, Vivashva, Bhaga, Parjanya, Dvashta, Mitra, Vishnu, Varna, Purusha. The Aditya of January is called Vishnu, who is very much liked by people for his commencing his course towards the summer solstice, progressively dispelling the pinching cold of winter. Now all of that is so much words, so some key things we can pick up from it. Winter. And that's very relevant to us because we find the last few days has been a little colder and we've been able to feel this. The onset of winter is necessary. When I first came to this country, some Irish people said to me, "Oh, I was away in Spain, it was very boring." Why boring? The sky was always blue. I come from a country where we take it for granted the sky is always blue and we love it. And we're disappointed when we come here to find other shades in the sky. And so the reason why they say that is because there is a variety in the sky and there's a variety of seasons. In Zimbabwe we only have 2 seasons. And in some places in Zimbabwe we have 2 seasons described as 2 hot seasons, described sometimes as summer and hell. It's so hot, ranging from 25 degrees to 40 something degrees. In the low felt or low lying areas we find that. But the 4 seasons, there's this magnificence. And so there are seasons wherever you go, where you see this transformation of nature in our favor, in the favor of the entire ecology of our human living existence, not just human, but for all beings. It is a great joy to us here to see every day, to look out and see the wonderful plants and flowers that people here have planted. I won't mention any names, I'll just indicate like this. and other people voluntarily put that. And we've received so many compliments about the beautiful garden. It's not difficult. As soon as you go there and see the variation of flowers, and then hang around for a while, and what you will find visiting butterflies and bees, exploring each flower, buzzing, exploring them, going right into the funnel of the flower, and gathering their pollen, and happily going their way. What a wonderful thing, just to observe that, and stand and admire the great engineering beauty of it all, and the great overall synergy between different aspects of life that go toward making this, what we broadly call nature. So we have the summer solstice, the winter solstice, and we know these aspects are sacred in many cultures, and we know here in Ireland how beautiful the winter solstice is and how emphasized it is at a place such as Newgrange, where people from all over the world come for that one day of the winter solstice, where this passage is lit up from a small constructed window exactly at the precise moment with the precise angle in view. And what they had in mind, we have no idea. But isn't it amazing that you construct a whole thing in such a way that once per year you get the joy of a wandering sun, or the reflection of a sun that lights up this passage progressively. And everywhere, everyone who sees it, people booking up from all over the world, get this internal joy and feeling of ecstatic wonder at this marvelous occasion, which happens only for a moment. You can't book it. You have to win it now, I think, by lottery nowadays. And you're very fortunate that people come from all over the world to see this one phenomenon. In the Vishnu Sahasranam, the 258th name is Vishnu. Don't forget, in the Vedas, Indra was seen to be the great leader, if you will, of all the deities. And we find Vishnu, who was merely a name, I mentioned, of course, he became supreme. Why? Because Indra, it was seen, was related to material well-being in terms of rains and so on and so forth that provide food, prosperity and those kinds of things. And it got bad publicity, of course, as we progress in the history, the unfolding history of Indra. And so Vishnu, something that is all-pervading, because this is what it means. And so Vishnu himself has become Surya Narayana, the pervading entity of the sun, identified itself with the sun that sustains man, Nara. And among the 49 Maruts, or wind deities, wind aspects, Marichi is of course the foremost, and the wind causes immense good to the world. The best of the wind deities is therefore identified with Ishvara. You'll notice I say deities and not gods, because this interpretation, gods in English, has created many confusions, and that has led to a finger being pointed. You are a polytheistic religion, as opposed to a monotheistic religion that holds the truth. With this last one, we'll start completing. So, the luminary of the day is the sun, the foremost among the luminaries at night is the moon, and these two heavenly bodies are therefore viewed with great veneration as the manifest representatives of Ishvara. We won't go into any great detail in the next one, but except to say, of the Vedas I am the Saman, because what does a devotee do? Wants to sing. The heart wants to sing. And the Saman is the Vedas in a chanted form, a sung form. Music is involved. And so it goes on, but we'll pick this up and continue with this next week. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Peace, peace.